Are you struggling to advance your career and sacrificing time with your loved ones because of endless to-dos, low energy, and just not enough time in the day? If so, then this podcast is for you. I am your host, Dr. Ann Sung, an ER, critical care, and space doctor, a peak performance coach, real estate investor, and a mother of a toddler. I'm here to guide you on mastering your mind and give you the essential skills to achieve peak performance. So welcome to Productivity MD, where you can learn to master your time and achieve the 5 freedoms in life. Hello, welcome to Productivity MD podcast, and I am your show host, Dr. Ann Sung. And we are doing a flow series. Today, we'll be talking about the 4 cycles of flow. And just before you get to the 4 cycles of flow, the struggle, the release, the flow, and recovery, there's you even need to engage, right? Some people don't even get to the engagement part, don't even start the protocol because they're just distracted. So this is what we're going to be focusing a ton on, the engagement, the pre-struggle phase, the pre-flow phase. How do you even get to that loop in the first place? Because it is so hard right now. And we'll be talking about the 4 phases in a little bit more detail. We'll be talking about eliminating the top 3 supersimulators. And then we'll be discussing how to make breaks boring, all right? So that your work will actually feel like it is really fun and you actually want to do it, right? And then we'll be talking about the Engage protocol. And all of this is from the teachings of Flow Research Collective from Leah Doris and Steve Kotler. So let's go ahead and dive in. Why are we even talking about the 4 phases of flow? It's because if you know where you are, you know how to get there, right? So if you know you're in the struggle phase, then you know you're going to get to the release phase. If you know you're in the release phase, you're going to get into flow state pretty quick. And then after the flow, you get tired. There's time to recover, and then the cycle starts again. And so in the initial struggle phase is where you release cortisol, norepinephrine. It's called the squirmy neurochemistry is what Leah Doris calls it, and Steve Kotler calls it. That's when you really don't want to do it. You have that internal sense of really wanted to distract yourself from it. You feel like it's hard. You just want to get out of your seat. You want to do anything else but that. But now you know that is a prerequisite for your flow, and you're actually on the right track. It is pushing the boulder up the hill at this point. In the next episode, you will hear about how to actually get through the struggle phase faster and to stop distracting yourself from the struggle phase. But that is the struggle phase. And once you get through that, you'll get to the release phase, the relax phase, and a bit of parasympathetic phase, all right? That's when the boulder is actually at the very top of the peak just for a very short time. And then after that, it is the flow phase. That's when the boulder is coming downhill. You're kind of unconscious. The inner critic quiets down. You're just kind of flowing with the work. You're not really thinking much about it. So this can happen even if you're working a knowledge worker or if you're in sports. Now, after the flow phase, and then you have the recovery phase. And this is, for example, you've expended a ton of cognitive energy or maybe physical energy, and you need to replenish it. That's ice bath, sauna, etc. Now, how do we actually get into these phases? How can we enter the circle in this loop? Because most of us are actually not even engaging. We are procrastinating. We're not even starting the work. There's different types of procrastination. So there's 3 types. One of them is inertia, which is when you don't even start it. You know what you have to do. You blocked out time to do it. And you just don't start, right? You're getting paid to do it, but you don't start. And number 2 is you're distracted. So you started it, but you distract yourself from it after you start it. And number 3 is chronic procrastination, where there is a life goal that you have, like starting a practice, writing a book, starting a different practice, like a coaching practice, and getting another education or coaching certification or fellowship, etc. Whatever it is, learning a skill, but you chronically delay it and you just don't start it. So it's just lost potential, right? So in order to eliminate these delays, procrastinations, there's like the avoidance conflict, right? Because you feel like there's going to be pain when you approach it. And so you rather do something that's short, that can stimulate your dopamine, get a big hit quick. So the tactic against it, the reason why we're talking about this is that we want to resensitize our brain for dopamine. So what I mean is we're distracting ourselves with quick hits of dopamine with other things like our phone, their screen, whatever, TV, whatever. We want to eliminate those things that stimulates dopamine release super easily. So there's the 3 M's. Well, we want to decrease it or eliminate it. So there's three M's. There's the molecules, right? So those are like caffeine. Well, caffeine, it depends on how heavy you use it. So it can definitely worsen your sleep if you have it too close to your sleep. So this is what I'm talking about, molecules, like molecules, caffeine before like 6 hours before bed. It can be alcohol, which is very detrimental to your sleep, right? And it can be like other types of nicotine, etc. So that's molecules. You want to identify what is your top molecule that you go for a dopamine hit and replace it with something else if possible. The next one is media. So a lot of times we distract ourselves with Netflix, or we can binge on multiple podcast episodes perhaps, and we never actually, like instead of binging on podcast episode, like try to read a book, like a physical book, or try to read an audiobook that is more structured in a way that gives you like a large piece of knowledge synthesized in a shorter period, if that makes sense. Think about the type of media that you resort to when you want to distract yourself, and see if you can either eliminate it or perhaps just switch it or replace it with something else. The third type of super stimulator is the munchies. So the munchies, we distract ourselves with food all the time, right? Planning food, shopping, whatever, deciding what to eat if you don't already have it decided for you. Like for us, like we have somebody who cooks our food, the toddler's food and the baby's food, so that we don't have to think about it. Everything's in the fridge. But it takes a lot of cognitive resources. And especially if you're craving things like salty, high fat, high sugar, that's a big hit of dopamine. So think about what your top munchie super stimulator is, and either move it earlier in the day or replace it with something else. Like for example, if you like chips or alcohol in the evening, then I don't know, ice cream, whatever. Let's see if you can swap it for something like yogurt, and like not sweetened, like naturally sweetened yogurt with some fruits, etc. Or if it's chocolate, then maybe some higher quality chocolate that is lower in sugar. Perhaps like, I do the 80% dark chocolate, 90% dark chocolate. You really get used to it after you don't have sugar for a while and things are sweet for you. So these are 3 things to eliminate and replace, so that you can resensitize yourself to dopamine. So your work, or whatever you need to focus on, it's going to seem awesome and exciting, and you actually crave it, right? And so you want to make the next step we're going to be talking about is making the boring rewarding. So what I mean is that what seemed like it was boring before could seem rewarding to you, right? And then when you're in these flow blocks or work blocks, first, you want to savor the stillness and kind of embrace the in between. If you are in between meetings, instead of diving into the phone and checking messages, maybe go outside and take a walk, look at some sun, look at some water, etc. if you have it. The point is to activate the parasympathetic system, and whatever you're doing in your break needs to be more boring than the work that you'll be doing. If you take a break and you look at your phone and look at social media, it's going to activate, the dopamine. It's like more engaging than the next work block that you'll be doing. So you don't even want to get there. You don't even want to engage. So stare at the walls, whatever. That's like like we talk about the favorite. What you want to do in those in-betweens is to starve yourself of dopamine so that you cannot wait to get back to work because it is so exciting than what you were doing before, right? And then just do one thing at a time. If you're going to eat, you eat. If you're going to drive, you drive. If you're going to walk, you walk. If you're going to work, you work. So single focus will be able to get you into flow states easier. And you want to practice your attention span muscle. Like, maybe this flow block, you're going to do, 30 minutes. The next time, you'll do 5 minutes more, then 5 minutes more, then 5 minutes more. I remember when I first started, I did the Pomodoro technique. I needed the kitchen timer, the 25-5. And then later on, I found I was a lot less distractible, and I was able to go for like about 90 minutes without getting fatigued where I need to take a break. 90 minutes, sometimes 120 minutes. So practice your attention muscle, and then just keep those like in between, like if you're waiting in line, the in between spaces, if you're waiting in line, instead of reflexively taking your phone, look around. I looked around at this tea place I go to, never read the words on the walls until I really didn't take out my phone, because I usually take out my phone to actually do work or respond to like messages from my virtual assistant. But this time I didn't do that. I stay still and I read the words on the walls about how different teas are made for the first time. And I gained some knowledge. I was like, oh, and that's like a different, really beautiful design. Look at that. The lights, the fixtures, interesting. Never noticed. So really do boring breaks, essentially, right? And then now, how do you actually engage? Now that you are resensitizing your brain for dopamine, what that means is that you've eliminated things that are super stimulating, and now your work can become more stimulating for you and exciting for you. How do you engage, right? The engage protocol. So what you do with the engage protocol is that first, you need to identify a certainty window, the way you can be not distracted and you can definitely finish a task, whether that is 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is. Establish a certainty window, because without certainty, it's hard to also get into flow. So say tomorrow I have 30 minutes. And number two, establish very clear goals. Tomorrow, it's not like finish slideshow presentation, because I have a review of slideshow presentation. It's not about that. You want to specifically the title of the presentation. There's about 1,000 slides to review for me. And I wrote down, finish 150 slides within 1 hour. So it's that specific. The process, write down the process. The outcome is that you gain the knowledge of whatever you're trying to achieve. And then process, though, that's what's going to get you there. So have very, very clear goals. Like, let's say if you need to review your books, like list out review expenses, like review QuickBooks, like all the things you need to review. Super, super clear and specific. And then lower the bar. The third piece is lower the bar for you to actually begin, right? So whatever it is, like for example, if I'm going through a slideshow, my slideshow the night before would have already been open, ready to go, first thing on the laptop. Like right when I sign in, it's already ready. So I'm not like fudging around and trying to find the links to the slideshow that I'm supposed to review and trying to find like where I stopped, etc. So it is all ready to go. Lower the bar for engagement, right? For this specific task. And again, this task is whatever you can accomplish in that specific certainty time, right? So we talked about a lot. We went through all 4 phases of flow. And this episode is specifically talking about how to actually get there, how to actually engage and get into the cycle. Because a lot of times we distract ourselves with dopamine, other things that stimulate us, and we don't even engage. And so we want to eliminate the top 3 super stimulators. That's media, munchies, and also molecules. And after you eliminate that, then you want to keep the boring rewarding to you. Take very boring breaks. You observe things around you. You might be surprised by what you observe. It might be pretty rewarding to you. Who knows? And then later on, the work that you do in your flow blocks will be like much more exciting to you, right? And you don't want to take any breaks that stimulates your dopamine system even more, right? And then we talked about the engage protocol, where you're going to have a certainty time window. You will find a task that will fit within that time frame window. Be very clear, specific about the task you are going to perform with numbers, perhaps, or like specific steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then lower the bar for engagement, where you actually do 1 micro step, start 1 page, wash 1 plate in the sink, etc., whatever you need to do. So after this, pick an action that you are going to eliminate, a super stimulator perhaps that you're going to eliminate or replace. And then I also want you to, for the next week perhaps, whenever you are in line waiting for something, Whenever you are driving, just drive and don't listen to something. Whenever you're in line, observe the people around you. Most people are on their phones looking down. So observe the lights, observe the tables, whatever. Observe your surroundings. And so, again, all the resources I will talked about is going to be on productivitymd.com. And if you are interested in getting on a one-on-one coaching qualification call with me, this is a 1-year coaching, and to see if you're the right fit, you can go on productivitymd.com and book a 15-minute qualification call and submit an application. And just remember that everything we need is within us now. And I thank you for your kind presence and attention.
Disclaimer, this content is for general information purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information linked to this content is at the user's own risk. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical conditions they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. The views are personal views only and do not represent any university or government institution.